Hello and welcome to another episode of Casting Views, the podcast that takes a topic each week and, as the name suggests, cast views. This week I've got good friend and the one, the only. He's the founder of the PodPack Collective. He's the host of one of the highest listened to indie podcasts. It is Satsu from Chatsunami. Hi, Satsu.
Hello. Good to be back. Thank you so much for inviting me back after the last time where we talked about weird merchandise.
Yeah. Luckily, you didn't get me cancelled. That's the main thing I was worried about. So.
Very true. I have a bad habit for that. That's why, Luke won't have me back from the Nerdstalgic podcast, Marie from Two Girls, One Reusable Cup. Yeah, even Sean from Review It Yourself. Yeah, he won't have me back. So thank you for inviting me back.
And actually, that's the thing. Do you know what? It's like everyone is like, oh, Satsu's so nice. Yeah, but get him on your show and then see what he talks about. Yeah.
Yeah, between you and I, there's a Netflix documentary in the works there.
How are you doing though, my friend?
Oh, not too bad. Absolutely. I would say basking in the summer weather, but it's the UK, it's Scotland especially where I am, so yeah, otherwise not too shabby.
It's amazing not to be those people that talk, about the weather, but we have had an incredible kind of turnaround, haven't we? So we had, I'm just trying to look now. So we had a couple of weeks for our American friends around kind of like the 89, 90 Fahrenheit. So that, what was it? It was around 32, wasn't it? We were getting the high to mid 30s. Now it's dropped to 16 degrees, which is like 60 in the space of a week, hasn't it? It's just been incredible.
Well, that's the thing that baffles me, because a couple of weeks ago we were getting scorching sunshine, which, although, it's a nice change once in a while, it really annoyed me because it meant I had to go outside and water my plants in the garden. So I was like, great. But now it's gone back to normal where it's just absolutely torrential rain one minute and then it's suddenly blistering sunshine. So you're like, oh, God. Yeah, it is very erratic, I think, is the word to explain it.
That's a good word. And yeah, I'm just going to explain to people, because normally I do like having a nice long intro chat with yourself, but a peek behind the curtain, as they say. So Satsu and I, we're recording 2 episodes back to back, one for me, one for him. I'm not going to say what his episode is because it'll go out a few weeks after. But we also got slightly waylaid, didn't we, by the Euro football tournament of a game going into extra time. And in a way, I'm glad. I like watching penalties, but we were both messaging. I was thinking, I hope this actually doesn't go to penalties. Otherwise, it's going to put us back another half hour.
Yeah, that's very true. My partner wasn't really into football before the Euros. And then I had to explain, what happened, with the quarterfinals, that it goes on to extra time, then penalties. So her first experience of penalties, I think, was the Portugal game.
Oh, yeah.
Which, I mean, as of recording this, was I think last week, I want to say.
Oh, sorry. When this episode's go out, it will be last week. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it was interesting to see how she went from a fan of, well, not a fan, like a kind of casual watcher, to a full-blown fan of, well, at least the Euros anyway, to see who was going through, who wasn't. And it is exciting times for a lot of countries right now. Not Scotland. We got knocked out at the very beginning, so...
Or Italy.
Yeah.
What's funny is my wife is the same. She's not massively into football, but if I'm watching football on my own, she'll sort of be in and around it to kind of have a chat. But every time I stick a game on, doesn't matter what the game is, she'll say, could this go to penalties? I'm like, no, it's a league game. And then in the group games, it's like, could this go to penalties? No, it's a group game. Now it's when it got to the last 16, she goes, will this go to penalties? I said, yep. And then she gets interested because she does like a penalty shootout.
Yeah, it's the edge of your seat stuff though, isn't it?
Yeah. But right, so tell you what, having said all that, we will get on with the show. But before we do, just going to hear a quick word from some friends of ours.
Howdy Beans, and welcome to my podcast trailer. Now you're probably wondering, who's this weird English fella talking to me about beans? Well, great question. I am the host of the Nerdstalgic podcast, Luke the Human. Nice to meet you, hope you're doing well, hope you're all good. As always. Now, you're probably wondering, what is the Nerdstalgia Podcast? Well, another good question. Let me answer that for you. The Nerdstalgia Podcast is a variety podcast talking about all things nerdy and nostalgic, from books to video games to movies to TV shows. Basically, if it is nerdy, and even if it just has the smidge, the hint of nerdism to it, rest assured, I will cover it. I'm on all platforms from Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and YouTube. All you gotta do is search Nerdstalgia Podcast and you'll find me. So I hope to see you there really soon.
Hello, lovely listeners. This is Marie from Two Girls, One Reasonable Cup, and you're listening to Casting Views.
Right, so Satsu, I got you on because I don't know why I was thinking of this, but this subject came to me and I thought, well, you're going to be the perfect person to have on to talk about it. And it was to talk about collector's editions of video games. And what got me onto it, what I wanted to talk about was just kind of like the evolution of collector's editions, and just really initially a brief chat between ourselves to see, do you go for them? Have you had some? Are there any particularly liked? There's definitely been a trend, I think, for better and worse over the last 10 years. But also, to finish the episode off, I've got some really random examples of collector's editions that I want to throw at you to see what you think about them. So, yeah, collector's editions. Are you normally one that gets your eye turned by them?
Yes and no, because it always looks really good. Especially, the marketing team are definitely earning their weight in gold there, where they say, oh, we've got this amazing statue of your favourite game character in this brand new game and whatever, and they make it so enticing. And as a Scottish person, inherently my eyes are drawn to the price tag first, where I go, a bit rich, not gonna lie. Because you look at something, you think this looks absolutely incredible, and then you look at the price, and for obvious reasons, depending on what kind of collector's edition it is, sometimes it'll be really expensive, sometimes it'll be a little bit more reasonable. But I would say when I was younger, I didn't really go for them. I think my main goal was just, let's get the game and then worry about the goodies after. But I always wanted them. Like, for example, with the old Modern Warfare game, the 2009 one. Can't believe I have to specify that. But for the 2009 Modern Warfare game, they actually gave you the night vision goggles.
Yes, yeah.
Which were so cool. And I remember I used to watch this comedy series by a channel called Reckless Tortuga called The Online Gamer. And long story short, it was about a guy who was pretending to be like the very worst of the Xbox kind of players at the time, very hyper-fixated on COD and everything, and they would always buy the collector's edition. So he would have the night vision goggles, it would have the radio controlled RCXD, that kind of thing. And I thought that was really cool to see it through that kind of lens. But for me personally, I didn't really get into it until, I want to say university was probably the first time I picked up a collector's edition. And I know we'll get onto it later, but I think it was for Gears of War 3, of all things. Yeah, what about yourself, though? Would you say that you're one to gravitate towards collector's editions, or do you stay clear of them?
I did. And the reason I say I did is because I didn't initially, because, collector's editions weren't really a thing. And I was actually trying to find like the history of them, and I wasn't really able to. And I think the first example of one, actually, if I read right, was late 90s for Myst, which kind of baffles me that early on. But like you, it's the price of them. They, not so much then. They were still expensive then. I mean, now I'll come on to it after. I think collector's editions now are extortionate.
Oh, yeah.
Back then, I think they used to be around the £60 to £80 mark, which, look, is a lot of money still. But I used to be able to, I think they produced them in numbers that weren't exactly limited. So in the day of the Xbox 360, that's really when I got them. You used to be able to get some really good deals on collector's editions on Amazon. So I'd never pay more than sort of like £30, maybe £40, depending on what was in there. So I think I only ever bought 2 from you. And again, they weren't overly elaborate or expensive ones. I think the 2 I got was, of course, Mass Effect 2. Well, you may or may not know I kind of like a dabble in Mass Effect.
Yeah, I had an inkling. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to talk to you about it one day. But then also, the other one was Fallout 3. I think, yeah, Fallout 3, and it came in like a little metal lunchbox with an art book and a DVD of the making. And so, yeah, I would never go out my way to buy them new. But yeah, if you weren't desperate for them and if you wanted the risk of potentially not getting it, you'd always be able to maybe 6 months later pick them up for a really reduced price on Amazon. So yeah, I did, but now I don't, because I think now they're either really expensive from the off, but I think now you're getting more. It's more like digital collector's editions, isn't it?
Yeah, it's this really weird shift that I found between a lot of game companies that don't really want to put the effort into making anything really substantial in a physical sense. There's a lot less like statues and things like that, as opposed to, oh, you get a cosmetic if you pre-order it, because I've seen, especially in the case, and this really surprised me, but especially in the case of games like Pokemon, for example, where you might get a really nice version of the actual console that you play it on, like for the
Oh, yeah.
Nintendo Switch, or
Yep.
you might get a nice steelbook, but beyond that, you just get a code for, oh, you get 60 of these Pokeballs or whatever, like really easy items to get in the game, ones that you can get right at the beginning, so it doesn't really make sense for them to do that. But again, it's not so much a collector's edition, I think that's more in pre-order bonus territory, but it doesn't seem as if they're putting in as much effort. And obviously, this is a blanket statement here. Not all game companies do that, but yeah, no, I totally agree with you. There's definitely been a shift towards that kind of feeling, and yeah, I don't like it. I have to say, I really don't like it.
There's an argument either way. I guess the argument for being more digital is collector's editions just meant more things hanging around. And, if I look back at it now, I mean, I'll go through some of the ones I've got, but I gave most of it away either to shops or to friends or, in some cases, neighbours. Ultimately, these are just all things that hang around, because they're now called deluxe editions or digital deluxe, aren't they? They're not necessarily collector's editions. So I can see the need for that. But ultimately, then when you start getting into that, you're looking at, well, certain things should be in the game. Certain things, as you said, were, we used to call pre-order bonuses. I also find, when you get, like, some you'll get a comic, some you'll get an art book. When they're online, digital, I tend not to look at them. But if it's physical, I will always flick through sort of the artwork of a book. So sometimes the artwork can be fascinating. I remember having one for BioShock 2, I think it was, and loved that. And also I had a similar one for, again, I believe it was Fable 2. The interesting thing has been, so from my experience, so yeah, you started getting the basic collector's edition. Then you started getting the really sort of enhanced ones with a lot of added bonuses, physical items. But do you remember the trend for having collector's editions that didn't have the game in?
Yeah, there was a worrying amount of them, I have to say. Yeah, there was one that I remember, and granted, there's 2 examples that come to mind right away. The first one was that Mighty Number 9 game,
Oh,
which
yes.
was the very controversial Mega Man, rather.
Yeah.
That would have been a different game entirely. Mega Man successor kind of game, because there wasn't a Mega Man game out until that point. There was like a really dry spell, and I'm sure that came with a lot of bonus stuff, but not the game itself. But in that regard, you think, right, okay, it's a company that's clearly out of their depth, and they're not planning ahead and this and that. So you think, right, okay, we can give them a little bit of leeway. But the other one I thought of, and I didn't realise this was a thing until I started researching, was Mass Effect Andromeda's limited edition, or rather collector's edition, that had not the Mako, but the Mako equivalent, and it
Yeah.
had it had the statue, it had all this lovely stuff in it. But then you open up the steelbook and there's nothing in it, and you're like, you're paying about, I think it was $200, I want to say, give or take, for this edition.
I've got it here. It was $200. You had the radio-controlled Nomad vehicle, a steelbook. Hold on for the next one, special packaging, but no game.
That's crazy. That is absolutely insane. I mean, even a digital code, and that would have placated a lot of people.
But this is it. Yeah, in my mind. So the first one I remember was, it was a Battlefield game. And I think it was, when they kind of revamped it many years back. Well, I was going to say many years back, but a few years back, it kind of got revamped. I remember being at a gaming exhibition, and Game at the time had like a stand within this exhibition, and they were selling it. And I think it was about £90, £100, and it had a statue of one of the characters. But I remember looking at it and seeing on the scene, Game not included, and that blew my mind. And I get it. I guess what some people say was, well, what if you might have bought the game, and then some point down the line you might fancy getting the collector's edition. It's like if you buy a game digitally, you can always then buy often you can upgrade to the digital deluxe version.
Yeah,
I guess it's like that. But physical games, I'm guessing you don't tend to do that. If you're going to buy it, you'd buy the collector's edition straight away. I don't know. That's how my mind would work.
but that raises a very interesting question, though, because where do you draw the line between a collector's edition and something that's just the merch to supplement the games? Because at that point, if you're not buying the game with the bonus content, then you're not really buying a collector's edition. Maybe I'm getting too philosophical here, but you're not really buying the collector's edition. You're just buying
Merch.
tap for merch or tap for the game. You're not really buying the collector's edition. Whereas, as we said before, when you bought it in the past, it was very prominent that you were going to be buying the game first and foremost, and then everything else was just supplemental to the experience. And yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that's absolutely wild that A, people thought that they were going to get away with it, and B, that people still buy it.
So it's not just sort of older games. I pulled off a list of some recent games as well. Well, when I say recent-ish games that had editions without the game in it. And there's God of War Ragnarok. Mass Effect Legendary Edition had a cash version. I think it came with a big, when I say cash, CACHE, so I think it came with like a big like treasure chest type thing. And I think it had merch in there, but not the game. Diablo 4 and Sonic Mania actually was another one recently. That looked like a cool collectible, so I can see why Sega probably went for that one, because there might be some Sonic fans from years gone by who maybe want that. But yeah, those are just a handful of some games recently that didn't include the game in collector's editions.
Absolutely baffling.
The other thing I was going to say, I think recent years, they've been hurt by some dodgy versions. It brings up all connotations, but I remember you brought up on one of my episodes about the Fallout 76 bag, right?
Oh, that whole game. Can I dive into it quickly?
Yeah.
Oh, the Fallout 76 just controversy. Not even talking about the game and its numerous bugs, because that is a whole other topic in itself. But the fact that they had this collector's edition that was going to come with all this merch, and they had this canvas bag that they were supposed to put out, and I think by the time they got it, it was like this really cheap, like nylon or polyester kind of material that people were like, well, what the hell, we wanted a canvas bag. So then, of course, BioWare, I was about to say, I've got Mass Effect on the mind, apologies. Bethesda said that, oh, that's absolutely fine, just raise a ticket with a customer support. And
Yeah.
when they raised the ticket, there was a security breach where people could actually see the tickets. And as someone who does know a little thing about, that side of a job, yeah, I was cringing internally when I read that. I was like, how could you mess up so bad that you're exposing everybody's private information? But then it got worse because, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but they released a bottle of rum. I don't know what kind of rum it was, but apparently from rum enthusiasts, they said it was really horrible, apparently. But what was really disgusting was that they said, oh, you're going to get this lovely glass bottle, like a kind of Nuka Cola, I think it's called, bottle that's going to be shaped like a rocket. And then they showed you it, and it was literally just a normal bottle, but they had a plastic case on the outside. And yeah, they were expecting people to pay premium for this, even though there were other people that had made the exact same bottles and sold it on Etsy for half the price. So they really had egg on their face that day because they're like, oh, it would be dearer to make these. And apparently, I've never been in the bottle making industry before. I don't know for a fact, but I can't imagine that they wouldn't be able to afford something like that and then not make their money back. Apparently, as well, when you had the bottle of rum inside this container, it was a very bad pourer. So it wasn't a very good decanter, first and foremost, which seems baffling to me, but it's even more baffling that they thought they could get away with error after error after error. And I think gameplay-wise that the game's recovered, but that reputation for the collector's edition will never recover.
No, and then, we're talking about it now, right? All these years later, and in the same episode, it must have been video game controversies. That's the only thing I can think of. I also mentioned, I won't go into massive detail, but the Marvel versus Capcom fighting game, the collector's edition came with a lot of stuff, but one was a case of Infinity Stones. And do you remember I showed you this? And
yeah,
if you looked at the promotional images, they looked just like in the film. But what people got looked like painted eggs.
Basically. Yeah, they were like cheap Kinder eggs without the chocolate.
Yeah.
I could not believe it because I looked them up again before I came on tonight, and just I couldn't believe it. I was like,
incredible,
surely,
isn't it?
You know that way when someone says in a video, "Oh, it gets worse," or "Oh, this is what they were supposed to look like," and I'm thinking, surely, because the statues and things look really good, and you thought, surely these people are over exaggerating when it comes to this, and then you actually see them and you go, no, this is actually terrible. How it got past quality control, I don't know. I think they just went, yeah.
So I think now we are definitely, that I think it was hurt by some of these, I won't say scandals as such, but mistakes and errors. Now, what I was going to ask you is, what would you look for? What do you look for in a collector's edition for a game? So if you there's your favorite game, you saw the collector's edition, what would it be that you'd want in there?
I feel as if there has to be 3 core aspects of it. And apologies, I've got my manifesto ready for this one. I think there has to be transparency about what you're getting. There has to be relatability in terms of the content you're getting. And don't get me wrong, I will get into that. And there has to be the feasibility aspect as well. So for transparency, just what we were talking about with Fallout 76, they said you were going to get one thing, and then they gave you another, same thing with the Infinity Stones. And I feel as if the companies who are selling you this product have to treat you like a consumer. They shouldn't be treating you like a mark or like, a con man would, to be like, oh, the gamers will buy anything. They'll buy this really tiny 3D printed abomination of whatever. Because, I always remember seeing on Amazon, there was this, I can't even remember what, I think it was the new Modern Warfare 2, but they had like this really terrible 3D printed model of Captain Price. And
Oh,
it was
right. Yeah.
like, oh, don't worry, you get him, and you also get 20 packets of Doritos or something like that. And it was the weirdest combination. It was an Amazon exclusive, apparently, which I thought, okay, that's really, really bizarre. Yeah, I think companies have to be very transparent in what they're giving to the consumer. They have to say, this is what we're giving you, this is how much it's going to cost. And I feel as if, as well, going on to my second point about relatability, this is actually something I have noticed with a lot of the ones that we brought up last time, because there's a lot, especially Resident Evil. Resident Evil seems to be the one that gets affected by this the most. There was one for, I think it was Resident Evil 6, that gave you tablet holders or something like that. And I don't mean like, for your like iPad or whatever, which shows how old we are. It's not so much for that, but it was more for your pills.
Oh, trust me, I've got Resident Evil will crop up later on.
Oh
Trust me.
yeah. But that way where it's like, it's obviously a series that is targeted towards, unofficially teenagers, but also young adults and things. And then obviously everybody's welcome, but you want to have that kind of cool factor as well. You want to reel them in with something. You don't want to just say, here's a random thing, but we've slapped the logo of the game on it.
Mm.
You want it to be something that you put out and you can immediately say, oh, that's so and so from that game, because I'm looking back, I've got it on one of my shelves behind me. I've got the collector's edition for Gears of War 3, and I absolutely love it because it's presented in like a very nice, almost like a medal case, it looks like, and you've got the transparent window that you can put the like metal cog gear in. So
Yeah.
it looks absolutely amazing. And inside that is packed full of amazing things. You've got a coalition flag, you've got extra art and things like that. You've got all this bonus stuff. And even because I'm just such a nerd and I managed to pick them up for cheap, I got the other two Gears of War games in their limited edition. So I have like ones with the art books in them and extra content for, the behind the scenes and the making of. That's the kind of thing I want to see. That's the things that I want to put out and say, this is what I've got. This is a really cool thing from that particular game. And even recently, I backed a Kickstarter for an indie game called To the Moon. And granted, it wasn't so much for the game itself, it was more for a card game they were bringing out. But especially for indie games, they do a fantastic job at times. Because they gave you things like, beyond the card game itself, like art books, stickers for it, things that you could feasibly use and put out. And I'm also excited because I've pre-ordered a collector's edition for the indie game cassette piece. And
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah.
I'm so excited for that because that's going to come with like stickers, it's going to come with like art, it's going to come with the game. I am super hyped because I love supporting in that way, but at the same time, these are things that I can put out and say, I'm proud to be a fan of that. But on the flip side as well, going on to my final point quickly for feasibility. And I feel as if, not always, but I feel as if AAA companies are more likely to take the you know what when it comes to price points. Like, I cannot believe, I think it's Resident Evil 6, and I think you're going to bring it up, but
Yeah.
a certain leather jacket, I won't touch on it too much, but yeah, a certain leather jacket that cost way, way more than it ever deserved to be. And you kind of just look at it and you think that companies, although they obviously need to make their money back and then gain a profit and whatever, they need to be realistic. They need to be realistic that these are, again, consumers that they have to be honest with. They have to have something that the consumer wants, and also it has to be in a very reasonable price range. But yeah, those are the three things I would say that a good collector's edition have to adhere to. Whether or not they do follow those tenets is a whole other argument.
So, are there any that you picked up? So you mentioned the Gears of War, and is that the one that actually comes with the display Gears cog?
Yeah, that's the
'Cause
one.
that's the one I really wanted. That's the one that got away for me, I think.
I mean, surprisingly, I bought that in, I want to say 2014, I think, 14 or 15. And the reason I remember was because I was in my last year of university, and I ended up, just by chance, I ended up getting, what was it again? I think, yeah, that's how I got into collecting some of the collector's editions, because I was in a game shop called Game, which I don't really think exists as much anymore. Long story short, it got absorbed into, was it Sports Direct, I think?
Well, yeah, game's still about, isn't it? But less and less selling games, really.
It's such a shame. Yeah, they sell Funko Pops and Broken Dreams now. Yeah. But yeah, I went in there with a friend, and that was back in the day where you could get 2 pre-owned games for a certain price. I think I got it 2 for 15, and he encouraged me to get the Gears of War 1 and 2 games. And the person who was serving us said, "Oh, I've got a limited edition of it. Do you want that?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll take it." And then once I got that, I decided to buy the third one, which at the time was £30. But I just remember paying that and thinking, "Oh God, I don't know if this is too much. Will I ever financially recover from this?" Whereas I looked it up there, and I think it's going for like 80 odds now or something. I mean, it could be less. I hope it's less, because it is such a good limited edition. But in terms of other ones, yeah, I've got 1 to 3 for Gears of War. I've got the Master Chief Collection, and I can't remember, I think this was the one that came with the Xbox One when I got it. So it came with like the steelbook and the maps of
Okay, yeah.
the different levels for the multiplayer and things. Really robust and really handy. Really liked it. And I suppose the only other one was the steelbook for Red Dead Redemption, which I know is more steelbook territory than it is, actual collector's edition. But yeah, those are the kind of main ones I would say that I've currently got. Because again, it's just, you always have to weigh up the price point, and it's between that and and again, this is a whole other rant, so I'll keep it brief, but the state of gaming nowadays, that you don't know whether a game's going to come out absolutely perfect or it's going to come out so buggy that you literally can't play it. So you have to wait for updates and patches and whatnot. And you think, is it worth sinking like £200 into a collector's edition when you're not really going to get enjoyment out of it, and you're going to be ashamed by that statue that you've bought of said game? Cough, Cyberpunk cough. I never bought the Cyberpunk one, just for legal reasons.
And that's what I was going to say. So going back to what I said at the start, is all the ones I got, I never paid full price. I always got them really good deal. Now, I'm going to chuck a couple to you in the chat as I describe them. So for me, my favourite one is the one I've just posted. It's the Batman Arkham City Collector's Edition. And I remember getting this at a really good price on Amazon. And it's probably my favourite one I've got. Now, I don't know if you've seen it before, if you're looking at it now. The reason being is, one, the game is great anyway. Two, the actual, I mean, I scoffed earlier at special packaging for one of the games, but the actual box itself is the presentation for it, for the main item, which is it's a black and white Batman figure, which I've still got. It's probably the only thing I've still got. But it's also got a nice little tray underneath, little drawer, which has got you got the Batman Gotham Knights animated film, you got a downloadable soundtrack, you got a collectible art book, and some extras for the game. So I think for me that's a perfect collector's edition. It wasn't overly expensive, I think, and everything is very relevant to the game. Now, another one I got, I'm going to show you this, is a bit of a bizarre game, but I really like it, and I seem to be the only one I know who did like it, was Driver San Francisco.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
We got it, and I mainly got that. Again, it was a good deal, but it's the model, the statue you get with it, which is a replica of a 1970 Dodge Challenger, and it was just such a cool collectible to get. And I think you got a comic with it and a map of San Francisco, which I wish I'd have kept all these years later for when I did end up going. Again, it's linked to the game, and it's a fun little collectible. Now, I've mentioned Fallout 3. I think I had one for Fable. Another good one at the time was a Lord of the Rings game. You know, not the Shadow of Mordor or anything recent, but it came with quite a big statue of some beast. I can't remember, but I had that on display for ages. And yeah, these are all things that, like I said, you get them at a reasonable price, and I'm happy. And they've all got the art book, which I like. They've all got sometimes behind the scenes, which I like. The only other one I did get, obviously I got Mass Effect 2 one. I did want to go for Mass Effect 3 at the time, but Game, who I think had the exclusive rights to it at that time, even then they had one of their almost sort of went under experiences, so I think they cancelled all pre-orders. But the Mass Effect 2 one I like because it's actually, well, it's called the Collector's Edition, because obviously if anyone has played it, the main enemy in that they're called the Collectors as well. I did like that little play on words for that edition.
No, that is pretty cool, to be fair. I'm just looking through the Arkham one and the San Francisco one. They are, as you said, they are just so relatable to what they're trying to sell. You know, it's like if you bought the San Francisco game and then they were like, oh, here's a tractor or something, or a Hot Wheel, and you'd be like, well, why? Why are you giving me this kind of thing? But no, those are very solid. And I'm absolutely jealous that you've got the Mass Effect 2 one, I have to say.
Well, again, that was more, it was like more of the still book, and I think you got some extras in there, and it might have been some artwork. So it wasn't like the collector's edition that we would see now. At the time, that was kind of all I needed. The one I would admit to, but again, I'm going to say I got it extremely cheap. I think I got it for about, may have got it for about £15 at the time, which for a collector's edition, you'll know why when I say the name. It was Colonial Marines.
Ah, okay.
For that statue, that figurine, do you know the one I mean, in that power armor suit? Yeah. And when you got it, it was quite poorly finished, but I just wanted that. And yeah, I managed to snap it up now.
Funny you should mention that, actually, because I actually just remembered there when you said about, buying a, relatively poor game, but a really cool collector's edition, because I was in CEX a couple of weeks ago, and I came across, Halo Wars.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the RTS attempt that they only did twice. I ended up coming across the limited edition in there for it. And that way where you have to balance, I don't really need the game and I'm not really as big a fan of it, but they've got a free coaster in it and they've got a free art book. I have to get it, and a really cool steelbook as well. But no, I can totally sympathise with you. It's all about the merch, I suppose.
And on a really random side note, before I go on, there was game strategy guides were really big, especially in the 360 days. Mm-hmm. I can't remember the name. There was a specific company that used to produce them, and I can't remember them. But even strategy guides started getting, quote, collector's editions. So you'd get maybe padded covers, so, the plush padded luxury thick covers, some extra chapters that had like artwork or behind the scenes. And sometimes you might get a free downloadable skin or something for the game. So even strategy guides for games were getting collector's versions.
That's crazy, isn't it? I mean, it's just, what would they be expecting though? Because if you're getting a statue or you're getting something interactable, you're going to show it off, you're going to put it on a shelf. Is there anybody out there who's going to say, oh, would you like to join me in the library for, Super Mario 64 walkthrough? It's got, I don't know, the padded eggshell white pages,
Marketing, my friend. Stick collector, stick limited,
True.
stick deluxe.
True.
And that's it.
There's always a market. I will admit, there's always a market, to be fair. I just don't want to go in the houses, that's all.
Yeah. But this is it. We're talking about cost, and we're kind of getting to the point of the podcast now where this is what I want to focus on now. Because, like I said, they were, and I'm not saying they were cheap then, but £60 to £80 always roughly felt like what you were going to pay. Now, when I was collating the notes, now we should have recorded this a week ago, but I needed to delay it. When I was looking then, I saw there was an Elden Ring Shadow of the Erd Tree. Now that is DLC as well for the game, isn't it? It's an expansion or DLC. So you don't get the base game.
Yeah.
The collector's edition for that, for the PS5, was quoted as £229.95.
229, did you say?
Yeah, I'm sure I
Jesus
saw
Christ.
that. Granted, I think a lot of these days are truly limited. So like I said before, they probably were making them in the thousands, right?
Mm-hmm.
Granted, these are probably now, they are limited. I'm looking at it now. Elden Ring Shadow of the Erd Tree Collector's Edition, 229. It's actually gone up 4p.
Too expensive for me. Too rich.
Yeah, so it comes with a 40-page hardcover art book, a voucher code and official soundtrack, and a 46-centimeter statue of Mesmer the Impaler, and a nice box. Now, the statue does look good. And like I said, if you want to, if this is what you want to get, absolutely, I'm not saying it, but it's just talking about the jump in price.
Do you not think that's wild, though? That, remember when you would get a game and, you would get the collector's edition, the said game, but nowadays, obviously, they've kind of moved on to the DLC kind of business practice where it's a lot more short form, except for, the outliers like this, where this is essentially a expansion pass. But I don't think I've ever heard of an expansion pass. And don't get me wrong, it's probably going to be one of your listeners that's going to be like, well, actually, Chatsunami. But yeah, I've never heard of an expansion pass of an already, previous game that you need to have to get the DLC having a collector's edition. I mean, fair play to them, to be fair.
The next one is the interesting one. So it's a recent Alone in the Dark game. Now, again, I've picked up the base game because I got it on offer. I managed to pick it up fairly cheap because even though I know it's not reviewed well, and unfortunately the company, I think, in recent weeks have been shut down, I think now, but the collector's edition for that, and bear in mind, I don't think people were going to be jumping all over this when it, just on the fact that it hasn't done so well in recent years. But that is still on Amazon. And the other thing I was going to say, I've tried to, where possible, I made sure that these are being sold by Amazon, because if it's independent sellers, sometimes that might be a markup or a rarity item, means it's a bit scarce. But this is going around 174 to 175, depending on the platform.
Wow.
174 to 179, depending on the platform.
Mm-hmm.
Now, strictly limited to 5,000 units worldwide. But again, it's just got a commentary mode, a horror filter pack, a steelbook, another costume pack, I think I said, a glow-in-the-dark steelbook, wall stickers, and miniature statues. So you're getting your stuff in it, but again, £175.
I mean, that is a hefty price tag.
Tekken 8, I saw one for £160, and this one here for a Switch game. And again, just going to look at it just to make sure I've got the name right. But this one here is called, so it's called UFO Robot Gredizer. It's on the Switch for £249 for the collector's edition. And you get a collector box, the full game, lenticular picture, steelbook, 4 lithographs, 3 pin set, a 25 centimeter exclusive figurine, an art book, golden ticket, I'm not sure what that is, a keychain, a new mission and some skins and a poster. Now, again, there's a lot of stuff in there, but it's like £250.
Again, it's that whole thing of having to weigh up, are you a big enough fan to want to invest so much in it? And again, seeing if that's attainable. Like, I have to admit, I feel as if a lot of these companies, because they make, limited editions and collectors, because the clue's in the name, they're not going to make it as much en masse, but there is that kind of FOMO that a lot of people are kind of worried that they're going to miss out on it.
And again, look, like I said, if these ones, if you've got them or you're going to get them, fair play to you. I'm just saying, I guess what I'm trying to highlight here is how things have changed.
Oh, yeah.
Then we've got, I won't delve into this too much because we mentioned a couple already, but then we said like the unusual items like the Call of Duty where you got the real night vision goggles, the RC car, the Mass Effect Andromeda, like you said. We've mentioned on this podcast the Dead Island and Fear collectibles.
Yeah, I looked that up before we came back on again because I just wanted to get my facts straight for it. And I forgot that the belly of the Fear one glows in the dark.
For added grossness, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that it's a pregnant monster lady is bad enough, but to add a glow-in-the-dark feature to be like, oh, I need a nightlight, here you go, here's your abomination and your nightmares for the next 10 weeks, Yeah.
See, if this podcast was a physical edition, that would be the quote on the back, pregnant monster lady.
I mean, what can you call her at that stage? I mean... it is the most baffling. I mean, I know we've spoke about it in length, but I feel as if that does have the edge. That probably is worse, but out the two of them, I feel as if they are both just... nobody challenged it, and I think that's what worries me more, that nobody stepped in to say, yeah, maybe we shouldn't sell a torso that's been decapitated and chopped up. Oh, maybe we shouldn't sell again, devil pregnant lady in the box. Yeah,
They probably even made it for mementos, maybe for in-house, but then probably somebody looked at it and thought, yeah, what would be a good idea, putting it out to the masses.
I mean, I've said it before, but it always reminds me of the fact that if you're a Twin Peaks fan, that that Funko, the company, they actually have a Laura Palmer figure. And for anyone who doesn't know what that means, it is the main, or one of the main characters who gets killed at the very beginning of the show, and she is dead and she's wrapped in plastic, and Funko said, you know what, let's make a Funko of that. Probably not the best one to go for in the marketing, and I get, controversy sells, that's the kind of thing, but I feel as if there has to be a line, because how controversial can you get that you're going to essentially be flagging up all the weirdos that you go into the house and they've got the, either the bust or the horrible pregnant thing.
It's like that Simpsons gif, isn't it? Is it Grandpa Simpson who goes into the bar and then walks straight back out?
Yeah, that's the one, yeah.
I've got some collector's editions that I want to throw at you. Some you probably already know about, a couple you've kind of hinted at. And I just want your view on this, right? Now, these are going to escalate in price, so just bear that in mind. It's going to start at the low end and work the way up.
Mm-hmm.
And towards the end, there are going to be some that are absolutely, I think I kind of mentioned it on your last appearance on here. Some of these are going to absolutely be pure marketing, manipulation, marketing, fever dreams. But these were genuine additions that I'll come on to. So I'm going to start, like I said, at the low end. And you mentioned it, Resident Evil 6. Originally launched in 2012 with versions for the Switch, PlayStation 4, and Xbox. Now, Europe had a collector's edition. This was priced at £129 or £129.99. So I don't know what the conversion rate is now, but it's probably, I know, something like $150 maybe now. But what you got in it was the game, the steelbook, the hardback art book with concept art.
So far, so good. Yeah.
Yeah. Resident Evil 6 Avatar DLC code for 360 owners or a dynamic theme for PS3 owners. Actually, on the side note, do you remember the avatars on the 360? They were pretty cool, actually.
Oh, they were amazing. Actually, sorry, just a quick brief aside, because the 360 store is closing soon. I was looking through the store, and it is absolutely amazing. See, when you're looking at the games, but they don't only just sell the game and then the DLC and whatnot, they also sell avatar clothes, which I feel as if isn't a thing anymore with the Xbox Series X and S. But yeah, no, they were cool. They were.
Yeah. So there's a couple more items. Ivy University Tall Oaks hooded sweatshirt, one size.
Mm-hmm.
The Resident Evil 6 Forces emblems. These were high quality enameled zinc alloy emblems of the three main protagonist squad insignias, mounted and set in a limited numbered frame, authenticated with signatures from the senior producer and Resident Evil 6 director, which are pretty cool. And all of the above were bundled into a lenticular needle bomb collector's box, $129.99. Now, personally, I think the contents are actually pretty decent. I would never have spent £130 on a game. I wouldn't have spent above 60, I think, on a game. But what's your view on that collector's edition?
I mean, it's not the worst, I have to say. It's pretty solid, yeah. I mean, what I do like about it, and this is kind of, maybe it's the more mature, nerdy side of me coming out here, but it's quite nice. See, did you say the senior production people signed it? Yeah.
Emblems that were authenticated with signatures from senior producer Hiroyuki Kobayashi, producer Yoshiaki Hirabayashi, and apologies for pronunciation, and Resident Evil 6 director Aichiro Sasaki. So they're all signed. So that's cool, right?
Yeah, I mean, as well, I mean, don't get me wrong, the VAs for these games always get, well, at least I would hope so, get the recognition that they deserve. But I always love when the people who actually worked on the game, and granted, these are the kind of top head honchos, so, you know, obviously they're going to just sign it themselves, but it's nice to see the people behind the scenes, you know, present themselves and get recognition, even if it is through, you know, the merch and the collector's edition. But I do like that. I think that's a nice touch to add into it.
Would you be tempted to buy that?
I mean, if I was a Resident Evil fan, yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's stick with Resident Evil 6, but let's go over to Japan to see what they got. So they got the game. Good start. They got 4 phone cases for Chris, Leon, Jake, and a random secret case. And they got a fine quality leather jacket replica of Leon Kennedy's in-game jacket. It's an extremely limited edition of the game with only 5,000 copies ever made. It was Japan only, and at the time, it cost 100,000 yen, which was roughly $1,240 or 780 euros.
Not a chance.
No. I mean, I like the idea of a leather jacket.
Well, I mean, again, this is me showing my age here, but I went into Marks and Spencer's a couple of months ago, and I remember seeing a really nice leather jacket, and granted, you know, I don't have the body yet to show off a leather jacket, but the point still stands that they were going for about £100, right? So you could buy a thing of the game, let's say, you know, let's be generous and say like £60, £70. You would only be paying that, and for a leather jacket itself, 170. Maybe you could get it for cheaper, maybe not. But the idea that someone would spend, and if this is the same one I was thinking of, the quality just did not look good.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's because obviously they have to mass produce it, they have to cut
Yeah.
corners. I'm not expecting it to be, high quality Italian leather or whatever, but they have to be realistic. Come on. They can't expect $650 for a leather jacket in the game.
Well, I think, what did I say? I think I said $1,240 for the collector's edition as a whole.
Oh, did you?
didn't I?
Oh, God,
Yeah.
that's even worse, sorry.
Yeah, no. It was, sorry, I just deleted that. But yeah, it was $1,240 for that.
Yeah, not a chance. That's a gladiator thumbs down from me. Yeah.
Now, I'm actually going to drop a little. I said they'd escalate, but because I wanted to stick with Resident Evil 6. Now, the next two cost the same, and we're looking at $800. So we had the Dark Souls 3 Prestige Edition. Now, that came with a 40 centimeter Lord of Cinder resin figurine, 25 centimeter Red Knight figurine, a collector's box, a metal case, 3 iron-on patches, a cloth game map, an A4 hardcover art book, soundtrack, and the game. $800.
Now, it does sound like a lot of great content that you are getting, but for that price point, I mean, that's $200 off a gaming PC. You could honestly, like, this is the thing as well, you could buy 2 consoles for that price. I mean, you could probably buy an Xbox and a PlayStation for that price, or a low-end gaming laptop or gaming PC. It's for £800.
Yeah.
You would have to be a real fan of Dark Souls for it.
So let's move on to the next one. That's $800. Now, bear in mind, there were only 999 copies made. So this is extremely limited, right? So that's going to factor in.
Oh, yeah.
Assassin's Creed Origins, called the Dawn of the Creed Legendary Edition. This featured a highly detailed, and these aren't my words, I've taken these obviously a description, but a highly detailed 73 centimeter resin statue of Bayek, the collector's certificate of authenticity numbered 1 to 999, an exclusive replica of Bayek's eagle skull amulet in resin, 2 exclusive Assassin's Creed Origins steelbooks, 4 large lithographs signed by the Ubisoft Montreal studio artists, the Assassin's Creed Origins Gold Edition, the base game, the digital deluxe pack, and the season pass, the game's art book, the game's official soundtrack, a printed version of the game's hand-drawn world map, and 2 original art cards.
I mean, it's a lot for what you get, I have to say.
You're saying it's the price is a lot more than...
I mean, the price as well. And honestly, I don't want to give your listeners the impression that I'm just a cheap you-know-what. To be like, can we do it for 500, But again, you would be targeting real die-hard fans, people with like real good jobs.
Well, I'm going to tell you to hold it there then. And if a podcast moment could be a hold my beer moment, we're entering that phase now. These are, without a doubt, this is what I'm saying. I think these were absolutely marketing stunts, right? Marketing ploys. There isn't getting away. But again, these are genuine editions. Somewhere I've said I might have found whether they sold or not. But this was Grid 2, the racing game, mono edition. Now, are you aware of this one?
No, actually.
Okay. I'm going to start with the price first. $190,000.
Did you get a free car?
You do. You do. Right, so released in 2013, this was a limited one-off edition. Well, it was a limited edition one of $190,000 video game that came with a brand new back or BAC mono, essentially a road legal track toy, giving the Grid game a Guinness World Records in the process. The price tag at the time, at least anyway, gave Codemasters the Guinness World Record for the most expensive video game commercially available. Each copy included a copy of the game for PlayStation 3, a PlayStation 3 console, a tour of the BAC factory, and a Grid 2 Mono Edition branded helmet, full race suit, and of course, the single-seater back mono or BAC Mono in a special Grid 2 livery. And basically, the BAC Mono is a stripped-down British track toy that was designed to compete head-to-head with cars like the Ariel Atom and the KTM Expo, Crossbow maybe, I don't know my cars. The back mono's carbon fibre bodywork is wrapped around a tubular steel chassis, and the car is powered by a mid-mounted Cosworth-tuned Ford 2.3 litre i4, which, bottom line is, the car can accelerate from 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds and hit a top speed of 170 miles an hour.
I mean, why would you link your game to... Like, I know that's a racing game and everything, but have you ever met anybody who would give the impression of, you meet them and they've got a nice car and you go, oh, that's a nice car, and they go, thanks, I got it from Grid 2 Collector's Edition. Because it reminds me of the Call of Duty, I want to say it was either Black Ops or Black Ops 2, that they had like a Jeep that they gave away. Or not gave away, it was like a collector's edition kind of thing. But again, it was like a bog standard Jeep with Black Ops just plastered across the side of it. So you're like, are you going to be that person who runs around in a video game car? And again, I don't mean like if you're decaling your car with video game characters or whatnot, that's a whole other thing, but would you buy a car based on a video game? That's what I'm trying to think, because I'm just thinking back to my own car and the amount of time I actually spent trying to get, like, a good deal and trying to see if it was right for me, if it would do everything I needed it to and everything. I can't imagine just being like, oh, yeah, let's just drop. Obviously, I'm assuming they've... I mean, would this have been the first collector's edition that you'd have to finance?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I don't know how much a car was worth, but I mean, you got a PlayStation as well. Don't forget that.
Well, true, yeah.
I'm going to throw two more at you. So bear in mind, these are only getting more expensive. That one was relatively cheap compared to this one. Dying Light. Did you ever know about this one?
Oh, is this the cameo in the film and the parkour lessons? Yeah.
So, this one, I've actually got this in pounds. This was priced at the bargain sum of £250,000.
Oh, that's a bargain. Sign me up already. I mean,
so if you don't know, Dying Light is a survival horror game where you take control of a character and you have to basically evade hordes of zombies. So the collector's edition for this would give players 4 steelbox special editions of the game, but also a zombie-proof house. Yep, an entire house. The centerpiece of this one-of-a-kind edition is a fortified zombie apocalypse-proofed house that will be built to order by a UK-based company Tiger Log Cabins. The house comes fully equipped with all living amenities and also includes an upper deck with vantage points and an escape hatch, arsenal storage for weaponry, and of course a living area with TV, Xbox One, and a latest sound system to play Dying Light on. The My Apocalypse Collector's Edition will also include zombie survival-focused parkour lessons, custom merchandise, and additional in-game perks that will let you kill time while the world around you mercilessly falls into zombie anarchy. But there's more.
Oh, no.
There was a Be the Zombie match with the developers who will let you win. There was a trip to Techland in Poland where you will party with Steve, the zombie consultant, who I think is one of the developers. You'd have your face skinned onto a Night Hunter character model. And there was Dying Light branded night vision goggles and apparently adult nappies.
I mean, they didn't really have me until the nappies at the end, It's...
Now, there's a little add-on to this, but for now, how do you feel about that for 250,000?
What the hell? No, seriousness. Like, I know it was probably, as you said, it's probably a stunt and things, but do you feel as if it's the guy who came up with this, he had a notepad that was just awkwardly too long and nobody took the pen away from him? where it was like, right, we're going to have, this bunker and everything. We're going to have the parkour lessons. We're going to have this. We're going to have that. And you're like, okay, Jim, maybe you should stop writing. Oh, and they should have adult nappies. And it's like, why? Like, again, I know they need some eye-catching to be like, oh, what the hell? But 200, that's the price of a house. I mean...
There was another version of it, but I'm going to come back to it because I do want to do these in order now. So I'm going to jump to it and come back. So just bear in mind that it will be more expensive. So Saints Row 4, were you aware of this one?
Is this the 1 million one?
Yeah, so I remember when all these came out, but Saints Row 4, which I enjoyed the game, they had an edition for $1 million. Now, this one-of-a-kind edition contained the following. So it contained the Saints Row 4 Commander-in-Chief edition, a Virgin Galactic space flight, full-size replica dubstep gun, a hostage rescue experience. This one is bizarre. Plastic surgery. Yep.
Yeah.
A spy training day, a personal shopper, a capsule wardrobe, 7 nights at the top royal suite in the Burj Al Arab in Dubai, a week for 2 at the Jefferson Hotel in Washington, D.C., first-class flight to Dubai, first-class flight to Washington, a Lamborghini Gallardo, a Toyota Prius, 1-year auto insurance, and a supercar membership. So, bear in mind that was $1 million. There was a website I found that priced them up or tried to price up the individual items as well as they could. They valued it at $629,974.
That's actually a lot lower than I expected. Because I was going to be honest, I thought when they said $1 million, I thought, wow, that's pretty cheap for everything that was in there. Yeah, I feel as if surely this was like definitely a marketing one rather than real, but
if I remember right, I don't think anyone did buy this one.
no, yeah, as far as I could see as well, I think, yeah.
So maybe we should check Amazon to see how much it is now.
You get a packet of Doritos with it, apparently.
Right, here we go now. The jewel of the episode is here now. We're going back to Dying Light.
Oh,
so if I think that was 250,000, right? If that wasn't enough for you, there was an even more expensive version. You got an idea how much this was?
Was it double the price? Like 500k?
Oh, no. This was, now bear in mind, the last one, Saints Row 4, was $1 million. This was $10 million.
Holy hell.
So I think it included everything else we mentioned in the previous edition, but one incredibly wealthy Dying Light superfan could also have the opportunity to purchase themselves a supporting role in a Dying Light movie. Now, bear in mind, I don't think they made a film. I'm pretty certain.
No,
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I think you're right. As far as I know, they didn't. But, I don't think they quite know how films work. Like, they're supposed to pay you to be in their films.
But it's not over yet. There's more. There's more.
No.
It included first-class flight and accommodation for the screening tour. It involved acting lessons from a noted voice actor. You could have a personal trailer on the set of the movie, an original copy of and at the time, like this was, they would have said there wouldn't have been a script yet, but an original copy of the script and 10 VIP tickets to the premiere and some other goodies. So there you go. I'll put you $10 million for that.
That is a harebrained scheme, isn't it? That is something that, like, Uwe Boll would come up with, I think. Oh, yeah, that's a doozy. That's...
I think I've broken Satsu for the end of this episode.
The thing about it is, like, for the other ones, I was kind of a bit facetious with the way I, approached it, being like, oh, that's the price of this and that. But, I mean, £800 or £600 or whatever, at least that's relatively attainable with, saving and things. But, I mean, who are they targeting? That's the thing. because I don't think I've ever heard, and I could be totally wrong. Apologies to all the fans of this game in here, or the die hard fans, but I can't imagine there's someone that's A, such a super fan, B, so ridiculously rich that they're going to spend all that money on it. Like, I feel as if, again, it's a marketing stunt, but
Absolutely.
but let's just say hypothetically this was all real, because it feels as if it's more attainable than the Saints Row one.
Well, I think it's
Yeah.
real in a sense of, I think that package would have been available to
Oh, yeah.
buy, but knowing full well that nobody would have. So
Yeah.
again, it's there's no such thing as bad marketing, right? Apparently.
Well,
But what I would say is, what if someone did buy it, but the film, they didn't make the film? What would happen then? Do you get a part refund, or is it, sorry, you bought it, that's it?
Well, that actually reminds me of two particular instances. I can't remember what magazine it was, but I saw this ages ago, and it was like a magazine that offered a part in, I think it was The Mask 2, of all
Right.
things.
Yeah.
But, The Mask never really had a sequel. Well, it technically did, but it was like a straight-to-DVD sequel. So it was like some poor kid had like won this competition, and then they're never going to get into this film. But the other one that it reminds me of is, have you heard of the Pepsi Jet?
Oh yeah, I actually did. Yeah, there was an
Yeah.
episode where we kind of talked about that, and I think that's
Uh-huh.
brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's the perfect example as well of it, that it wasn't supposed to be attainable, and then the indomitable human spirit came in and said, "Excuse you, I'm going to get that jet." Or, I mean, what if they did a fundraiser or a GoFundMe or something, and this was like the biggest shitpost of the millennium, and then yeah.
Look, I love the idea of being able to purchase a game and potentially be in a film, but yeah, you're not looking at that kind of price. I mean,
No.
why can't they just do something maybe once where anyone who purchases the base version of a game in the future, register it in the future? If we make a film, we might pick one of you to be in it.
Yeah.
Just do that.
I mean, what happened to a good old raffle?
Yeah. Oh dear. Well, look, Satsu, I think I'm going to end it there.
Okay.
I can tell everyone that I think I can hear you rustling in your wallet to see if we can pick up that $1 million Saints Row one.
Oh, trust me, when the podcast money comes in, I'm going to be splashing the cash, of course.
We'll see the unboxing video on his Twitch channel.
Yeah, just the sunken eyes underneath thinking, why did I spend this money?
No, look, thanks for coming on. Like I said, I mean, I do love an excuse for talking about video games, and as I said, I thought you'd be the perfect person to talk to about this. I hope you enjoyed the chat.
Oh, absolutely. Always enjoy coming and casting views. It's always the highlight of the week.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. You're far too kind. Do you want to just tell everyone, well, like we keep saying, I mean, as of this now, you've surpassed the 60K, right? Haven't you?
Yeah, that's right. It's very surreal to be sitting here saying you have hit the 60K, but hoping to get more, but I feel greedy asking for that, but...
Well, I always feel it feels silly when I say if you're not listening to Satsu, because you probably already are, but you just want to tell everyone where they can hear you.
Oh, absolutely. So, as you said at the beginning of the episode, my name is Chatsunami, and I run the Chatsunami podcast, a variety podcast that discusses topics from gaming and films to anime and general interests. So, if you want to check it out and listen to a wide variety of topics, as well as a lot of collabs. Don't worry, we're building on the collabs between you and I, Dan. But if you want to listen to our episodes, you can check us out on our website, chatsunami.com, as well as all good podcast apps.
And we're just waiting for the physical release version of your podcast and the collector's edition for that, please.
Very true, yeah. For £1 million, you too can support a hungry red panda. Yeah.
Look, thank you again, everyone. Make sure you're following Chatsunami if you're not already. He's bound to be back on again soon at some point, and I know he will. He doesn't know, but I've already got him lined up for a couple of things, so that's going to be
I can't
discussed
wait.
off air. And yeah, I will see you next week for another episode of Casting Views.
1, 2, 3, 4. If I want your opinion, I will give it to you. Come on, check what we